Hello. Today I will make an interview to you about Germany in general. Okay,
Mm.
there will be some questions of Germany. If you want to add something of those questions, add those. The first question is um, the school subjects and hours in Germany. Like if there's something different about them in Italy or in Germany, if there are more subjects than in Germany than in Italy, and like this.
Well, I think they're pretty much the same, although I'm not so familiar with the Italian school system, but I would assume that it is pretty much equal than what you're anticipating.
Yeah, and the hours in Italian they are from 8 a.m. to
Mm.
2 p.m. In Germany.
Well, it's fairly the same. The kids here start at 8. There's a huge discussion currently whether this is too early or whether they want to start a bit later. But for some of the days, you have school in the afternoon, and some don't. So sometimes my daughter, she's currently in the third grade. She's back home around 12:30, and sometimes she's back home at 2:30 on 2 days a week.
Yeah, so they're pretty much the same. Also in
Hmm.
Italy, from the first to the fifth grade, there are the the schools that have actually hours in the afternoon. Okay, so do you want to add something about the this question?
If I'm sorry, I was just interrupted. I didn't understand your question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, do you want to add something to this question? Some things like some different things?
No, thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Let's pass to the next question.
Hmm.
What do you remember of your most of your school when you were our age?
Well, it was. Um, what do I remember? In the age of 11, is it? You were 11 years old?
Yeah, I'm 11,
Yeah,
almost 12.
almost 12. Okay. So this is for us the second year in the. In my case, this was the gymnasium. What I do remember well is that things got so different from the primary school. A lot more hours, a lot more things to do, a lot more afternoon schooling, new subjects, a lot new things, and the whole level was far more intense than it ever been in the primary school. So that was pretty something that went on really quickly and really tough in the first two
So
years.
practically it's just a little more intense than before.
A lot more intense than before.
Oh, and because in Italy we pretty much do nothing, yeah, we don't study too much actually.
Mm,
In Germany, it
yeah,
seems the school system is a lot harder.
I don't know. I We have friends in Italy, and they, whenever we talk to them, we do not have the impression that it is so awfully different, or that things would be much tougher in the one place or the other. So it seems pretty equal, from my
Maybe
understanding.
it changes by places. Like in Italy, in the north part, there is the school and the work in general is a little more intense than the south part. So,
Is it? Okay.
mm,
Yeah. Yeah. We have a similar system because equally than Italy, you are divided into regions. We are divided into 16 states, and the states basically define what the content of the schooling and everything, the hours, and the system. There's just a couple of things that are equal, but the more south you go in Germany, the tougher the system is seen, right? So if you, for instance, leave the high school in Bavaria, in the region of Munich, it is seen as being the most toughest high school degree you can get in Germany, whereas in the north, it is seen very, very easy.
Yeah, I have a friend that is in South Germany. He says
Mhm.
that the school in general is not that hard. And I would like to ask that there are like some different type of grades, like some the kids that are more that have more abilities going in a more elaborate school, or it's not.
Well, generally speaking, our kids start in the age of 6 with the primary school for 4 years. And right after 4 years, in the age of 10, 11, um, you are going either to the gymnasium or to what we call Realschule, or there's a third pillar which is called Hauptschule. So it's basically divided into a three-pillar school system. And the gymnasium goes around about 6, 7 years. And oh no, it's 8 years in total. I'm sorry. Realschule is around about 6 years, and Hauptschule 5. And only with the high school degree you can then go on and go to university for studying. So it really depends to what kind of school pillar you go. Things are very different, right? Whereas in gymnasium, you do much more like science and art and those kind of typical things.
Yeah,
Whereas
there
in
are
the
like
others,
sections of the school.
excuse me,
Sections.
what do you mean
Like
by sections?
I mean by the section that does not so much work, the section that does middle and the hard sections. Yeah, I mean like this something.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much what I just described or tried to describe is that you have this three-pillar system in Germany, and it depends on what kind of school you are. It can feel a bit tougher than in the other pillars. So gymnasium is usually quite difficult because it gets you prepared for university, whereas in the other pillars, it's more bit more technical jobs, for instance. You may know that we have a dual study system then right after schooling in Germany, which is pretty unique in the world, where people basically also go into companies where they later work, but at the same time get educated on the job. And this has sometimes been done in parallel to the schooling.
I knew this. Yeah, I hear this. I don't know where, but I hear this like the work and the education at the same time.
Hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Let's pass to the next question.
Okay.
The most famous people on your country.
Well, pretty sure you are familiar with Angela Merkel. She's been in office for 16 years, right? So all your lifetime. And all our kids just know her being the leader of our country for such a long time. And you may also know Michael Schumacher, who drove very successfully Ferraris once. In terms of literature or music, there's Beethoven, Bach, Schiller, Goethe, those kind of famous people. But from science perspective, Alexander von Humboldt, for instance,
Hmm.
you may know, and Einstein, Röntgen, uh, which are pretty famous people, I would assume,
Yeah,
across the globe. And in Italy, maybe also Benedict XVI, yeah, the former pope.
mm, yeah. Also, in Germany is a literal conflict with the Italy Catholic system. So there is another question later
Okay.
that talks about religion. So
Hmm.
okay, so let's go to the next question. The most important facts of the Germany.
Okay, the most important facts. So, well, I think the political system is almost the same as it is in Italy.
Yeah,
Um, we have a parliament with two chambers. We have a head of the state. We have a chancellor. You have a minister. So pretty much the same. Small difference here and there maybe, but I think it's pretty, from a political point of view, the same system. We have 16 states. This is quite comparable to your regions. right? For instance, Lombardia, we have Baden-Württemberg, very similar to that.
Yeah.
Whereas in our case, the states do typically own the power for the police and for education, whereas the country looks after foreign policy, taxes, and those kind of elements. We have 83 million people living in Germany.
Yeah.
Amongst these is the Turkish and the Italian community, the biggest community of foreign people living in Germany, so to speak. What else can I tell you specifically about Germany? The capital is Berlin. It used to be Bonn before the reunion in 1989. So that changed a bit. Our biggest cities is amongst Munich, Hamburg is very famous. In the north, we have Berlin, as just said, as the capital of the country, which is also pretty big, rather in the eastern north part. Nordrhein-Westfalen is by far the state with the biggest population density, around the area of Cologne and Düsseldorf, in those kind of regions, which used to be also pretty famous for, let's say, the more industrial sector, coal mining and those kind of things. The south is pretty much famous for car industry, car manufacturers such as Mercedes-Benz or BMW. And roundabout today, I think from an economic point of view, German car seems to be pretty famous around the globe, and other elements. Would that answer your question?
Okay, so, yes. And let's pass to the next question.
Mm-hmm.
An example of a dialogue of your language, like something in German, like hello, bye, how are you in German?
Okay. Do you want me to say something in German specifically, or is that what you
In
wrote?
general, like hello, bye, how are you?
Yeah, it's pretty the same. It's also Hallo, guten Tag, guten Abend, guten Appetit. Oder Filippo, ich wünsche dir viel Erfolg für dein Seminar und deinen Vortrag. Yeah, that would be a typical phrase, for instance, in German.
Yes, so because I think English and German are pretty much the same because they are barbaric languages, and meanwhile Italian is a Neo-Latin language,
Okay.
so it's pretty same the English and the German.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, let's pass to the next question. Is better in Germany or in Italy? You consider that Germany is better than Italy?
From the pure size?
In general, like from the community, the amount of work, the money, how you live.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much the same, I'd say. I'm not experiencing huge differences when I'm in one country or the other. And we are visiting Italy a lot. My wife has Italian roots. Her dad is coming from Sicily, and her mom. So we are down there pretty often. We are often visiting the Tuscany region. I got a couple of friends there, but we never experienced such huge differences, I'd say.
Yeah, I also knew that in Italy the north part is a little better than the south, but I heard that in Berlin there is a left and a right part. That is, one part is rich and the other is
Mm-hmm.
kind of poor. That is like from the wall of Berlin.
Yeah, well, back in the days when we had two completely different systems and different nations, West versus East, of course, the economical differences were huge. Western Germany was a super rich country back in the days before the reunion. The eastern part was, literally speaking, breaking down, was not solvent anymore. So there was a huge gap. We're trying a lot to minimize that gap. which we haven't fairly succeeded yet across the last 30, 40 years in doing so. So this is still quite a path to go. But on the other side, you also have advantages on the eastern part, for instance, very low rents, and nice housing, and other benefits. So it always depends what you're looking after, right? If you're rather after a nice career and you want to go for industry and work for a big company, you might be better off in the western part. That might be the case, yes.
Yeah, okay, so the next question is traditional food, music, and nutrition, like the
What was the last
tradition,
one? Excuse me?
the traditional food,
Yeah.
the traditional nutrition, and music.
Okay. So in terms of kitchen, I'd say that definitely the Italian kitchen is far more famous in the world than the German is.
Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty meat heavy in Germany, right? We have this tough sauce and meat and what have you. So from that
A
angle,
pretty fat diet, yeah.
yeah, you can tell it is. In terms of music, well, it really depends very equally to Italy. The country was in the 17th and 18th century quite famous for the classical music, of course, which still a lot of people across the globe hear today. But the music style, I'd say, is also not so much different than it is in Italy. Pop music, what have you. We're
Yeah,
also listening to Italian bands.
is
Pardon?
in, pop music now is in the most of the globe, like
Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
found that in the every part of the globe.
yeah, definitely is. At least in the Western world. Well, equally maybe in the eastern part as well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I mean the there are many famous musical person in Germany.
Hmm, that's a good question. I'm not listening to any, to be honest, so I can hardly tell. Who is really famous in Germany at the moment from a musical perspective? I can't tell. I really can't tell. Actually, my wife and my kids are currently listening to the last winner of Sanremo, exactly, and the other tournament that took place in Europe, Eurovision Song Contest or something, right? The rock band coming out of Italy. But other than that, we are basically listening in Germany to international music, I'd say, right? There's nothing really specific about German music. Maybe a bit unlike to Italy, the music here is much more international and less focused on local songwriters and singers.
Yeah, that's actually a fact. A fact. In my class, literally everyone, there is a musical festival in Italy called Sanremo.
Hmm.
In this festival, there are many, many famous singers and that are Italian. And every time there is this festival, my class literally goes crazy for the winners. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think here the kids are listening much more to American bands or rather English bands, but not necessarily so much to German bands.
Okay. And let's go to the next question.
Hmm.
That is the famous holidays.
The famous holidays,
Expect
I
like
guess, same. Yeah.
Gaster and other things like that. I mean by famous that are different by the normal ones.
That are different. Okay. Well, my first reply would have been it's obviously Christmas, right? This is the biggest seasonal break we're having, equally as in Italy. And other than that, we have the Day of Union in October, October 3rd,
Hmm?
when Germany came together. Uh, we have the Labor Day, which is March first, but I think you also have it in Italy,
Yes, there
if
is
I
a lot.
remember. Yeah. So other than that, there are not so much different holidays. I think maybe the holidays in Italy are a bit more Christian related.
Yes, a bit more.
And yeah, but I think it's basically equally the same because our school system is pretty much also going the traditional calendar, right? You have the Easter break, then we call it Pfingsten, then right after, and then there's the huge summer break, not as big as yours, for instance. You really go off for vacation very long. Our kids only for 6 weeks, and then you have the autumn break, very close to Halloween, which is called in Germany a bit differently. And then, yeah, we are already heading to Christmas and Sylvester, New Year, right?
Yeah. And so I think the next is the last question. Yes, is the
Mm-hmm.
last. That is the majority of the religion, like Christian Catholic, and the like. What's the majority of the religion in Germany?
Yeah, well, I think it's still the Christian religion, still, right? And I think it's I wouldn't say, I don't have the statistics, but it's not necessarily equally divided amongst the Catholic and the Protestants. But you might learn in school when you talk about the 30-year war in Europe, right? It was basically a
Yes.
fight amongst the Catholics and the Protestants, and it was on German ground. So this is the Protestants are in some regions in Germany, predominantly in the north, very often, and in the north of Bavaria, very famous. But Bavaria, as such, is pretty much known as being a really conservative Catholic state, for instance. Then, of course, with immigration, you have all sorts of other religions as well, but I would not necessarily call them the majority of religion as such. And what can be observed um, in the last years is that people are more and more leaving the church and become a bit more independent, or not necessarily being part of a specific church while still believing into something, but
Yeah. Okay. There is also the
mm-hmm.
Christian Protestant that by the Martin Lutero
Mm-hmm.
thing, like times the around 30 around the 12th century, I think, is more Catholic or Protestant.
Well, what Luther did is basically he was translating the Bible into something that people could read, right? He was translating it into German from Latin, which was only taught in the church by the priests. So up until that time, nobody could read the Bible really, and this is basically what he changed. And by chance, um, by the invention of Mr. Gutenberg, who was inventing how to print books fast, he could basically publish the German-speaking Bible, and that made it as an own sort of religion, the Protestant religion, which is because of that pretty famous in Germany as well.
Okay, so that's pretty much all of the questions I've prepared. You
Okay.
wanna say something else, like something else? I don't know.
No, thank you. I'm fine. Thanks for your
Okay,
time and
so
the interview.
that's the interview, and bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.